Welcome back to the booth here at Grand Prix Santa Clara. Behind us, the clock is ticking down in round number 2. Round about 15 to 20 minutes left in the main round, but we are going to go right back to the start of the round for our Time Walk match. We call that because there's a famous Magic card called Time Walk, but all it really means is we're on a little bit of delay. We're going to join it a little bit in progress. We want to show you as much Magic as we can. So why don't we head down to the feature match area, and we're going to kick off here. Both of these teams are at 1-0. On the left, you've got the underdog trio of Stephen Peters, Richard Neal, and Sean Tabritzi, and the superstars, Hall of Famer Paul Rietzel, Pro Tour champion Steve Rubin, many-time Grand Prix and top 8er Andrew Cuneo, and a Grand Prix champion, one of the great deck builders, created Draw Go. And we are opening up on the middle table, and middle means modern. Maria.
All right, Steve Rubin on Death's Shadow, Richard Neal on 5-color humans, one of my favorite decks in Modern right now.
Yeah, now, the Death Shadow deck, we've already talked about what its game plan is. The human deck, however, this is a deck that's playing a pile of creatures that all interact favorably with one another, and it's trying to flood the board as quickly as possible and end the game. It disrupts the opponent with cards like Meddling Mage, really, messing with combo deck game plans, while it wins the game naturally, often as early as the 4th turn.
Yeah, you can see there Richard Neal had a bunch of creatures out with a bunch of counters on them. It's really explosive if you get the right draw, but unfortunately a deck like Death's Shadow, or fortunately if you're Steve Rubin, has a lot of spot removal, which is easily able to deal with a lot of what the humans is trying to do.
Absolutely, and this is really just kind of a classic Magic sort of matchup where, it's a control deck trying to find the right suite of answers against an aggressive deck that's just trying to lay it on thick and fast.
It doesn't feel like it here in California, but I'm reliably informed that across much of the United States there have been terrible bomb cyclone things and portal rifts opening in the fabric of the universe, all of which combined to shut down multiple airports. And the reason I mention this here is we have some meteorological impact on the tournament. Rietzel, Rubin, and Cuneo is not a lineup you would naturally expect to see here. And that's because multiple pros and players of all calibers weren't able to get here this weekend. And there's been a lot of running around in the last 24, 48 hours to find team members for some of the best players in the world. So Rietzel, Rubin, and Cuneo, a bit of a collector's item to see these three in action together. And we do want to say to Mike Sigrist, second time he's now missed a GP due to weather in the last few months. Not running great for Mike Sigrist, but Mike, we miss you. It's great. The GPs are better when you're here, and we look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Also, move to California.
And here we see the humans deck kind of able to build right back up from being kind of mowed down a little bit earlier from the Death Shadow deck. Meddling Mage on the table and growing the team. And yeah, Steve Rubin has seen quite enough. Scoops him up. Richard Neal taking the first game here in our Modern match.
So early advantage to the underdogs with Neal claiming game number 1. So we may head to Legacy for Sean Tabritzi against Andrew Cuneo, or leftwards to Stephen Peters against Paul Rietzel in Standard. And you can tell that Paul Rietzel's going to have his game face on because he's come out in order to play Standard as one of the three here. Remember, top, middle, bottom, Standard, Modern, Legacy. That's the way it works. So we are in fact going to the end, just classic timing. That was half a turn of Legacy, and we're going to go to Standard.
Look at this! Not something I expect to see. Ripjaw Raptor for Paul Rietzel. What are you doing here?
It's adorable. A very friendly dinosaur.
Adorable.
Sure. As it's tearing your esophagus out with its talons.
I opened one of them in my sealed pool at Grand Prix, New Jersey, and it was far and away the best card in my deck.
Oh, absolutely.
Here it is in Standard, being played by one of the best players in history.
I saw it and I said, oh, well, this seems like it might be a good fit in Standard, and I haven't seen it up until now. So Paul Rietzel with some spicy tech here.
Stephen Peters coming with Glorybringer. Just to clean up, I'm sure you all at home understood instinctively from the 1.3 seconds that we watched of Sean Tabritzi against Andrew Cuneo that Cuneo was going to win game 1 and did. So it's 1-0 there to Cuneo, Rubin, Rietzel, and 1-0 to Peters, Neal, Tabritzi on the Modern. So back we are with Standard And we'll see what goes on here.
All right, Ripjaw Raptor getting chumped by a Thopter token from Steven Peters. Going to draw Paul Rietzel a card. Why do you think he chose to include this card this weekend, JVL?
Well, it's a card that matches up really nicely against Glorybringer in particular.
Yeah, we see it right there.
Yeah, when your opponents are, locked into playing 3 formats and you're playing Standard and you're trying to do well for your 2 friends, chances are you're going to be playing a deck with Glorybringer this weekend.
Yeah.
So, Ripjaw Raptor, if it's ever had a weekend to come into prominence, this is it. And this is a card that I imagine we're going to see quite a bit of in the not-too-distant future once Standard changes a bit. It's a really powerful card for its casting cost.
That's such a good point, too. Like, normally you have to wonder what everybody in the room is bringing to a tournament. In this case, you're probably just wondering, what's the best deck? People are most probably going to bring the best deck, so what do I play to beat the best deck?
Absolutely. And, that's part of the higher level thinking that goes into these team events.
Or, as it has been christened, next level thinking.
Next level at some point here.
Yeah. Then we're down the rabbit hole. Let's not do that on MTG launch. Let's save that for the pro show. Marshall and Eduardo can handle the next level.
Excellent.
The Pro Show is up next. It's the second of our 6 shows this weekend. We're finishing off MTG Launch with our Time Walk. That means our tape delay match, as it were, in round number 2. Marshall and Eduardo will kick off the Pro Show with rounds 3 and 5. Maria and JVL will be back with rounds 4 and 6. And then Marshall and Eduardo will drive the bus home with the cut in rounds 7 and 8 as we find out who advances to day 2. New for 2018, 8 rounds on day 2. But lots going on here, Maria.
All right, so we've got 2 Servants of the Conduit hitting the table for Steven Peters. Glint Sleeve Siphoner was a play last turn for Paul Rietzel. And here we go. Drawing from it and drawing for turn as well. Ripjaw Raptor looking pretty nice right now versus Steven Peters' board. And Rietzel at a comfortable 14 life. If Near Deadland's going to take down one of those Servants of the Conduit, the team swings in. A chump block is forced for Steven Peters. Down goes the other Servant, and drawing a card, no less, for Paul Rietzel as well. Long Tusk Cup, the follow-up play. The draw was a fatal push.
Wow. And this Ripjaw Raptor is looking really, really nice, right? We've already seen it draw multiple cards here for Paul. In addition to that, it's just a really nice body for its cost. This is a card that, is playing better than I ever could have imagined it would.
Yeah, it looks excellent versus that Glorybringer.
So there were just 2 cards in hand for Steven Peters. He's now drawn Harness Lightning. Is that going to save him here?
So Harness Lightning, it has the ability to kill this Ripjaw Raptor now, but in doing so, Steven Peters would be down to just 1 energy remaining. He could use the Glorybringer to then kill another one of Paul's creatures, and he seemingly would be out of the woods in terms of, he's not actually facing lethal next turn. However, Paul could very easly acquire 1 more point of energy to make the Long Tusk Cub lethal, or draw something else that's able to win him the game. So,
all right, here we see the Harness Lightning targeting that Ripjaw Raptor.
So it does get him an additional turn.
Down to 1 energy for Steven Peters. Plenty of cards in hand for Rietzel. He's going to spend some energy to put a counter on that Long Tusk Cub.
Yeah, so it looks like he drew in a tune there, and he's going to play it straight away. A tune with Ether.
OP.
Yes, a very powerful card. Had the attune been an instant, he would have been able to win that game. It, however, is not.
Thank goodness. All right, and that is
but he is going to
good
get
enough.
That. Yeah, Paul Rietzel claims game number 1. So the pro team of Hall of Famer Rietzel, Pro Tour champion Ruben, Grand Prix champion Cuneo, and classic deck builder extraordinaire, they are 2-1 up in the opening game. So we're going to head down to Legacy. And oh my word, I assume that that's a young Pyromancer sitting over there for Sean Tabrizzi, plus some chums.
Yeah, we've got Deathrite Shaman and a bunch of elemental tokens coming up the board there for Tabrizzi. Just 1 land in play for each player.
And in a format like Legacy, you do not need a lot of lands in order to operate. Andrew's deck does need a few more than Tabrisi's deck. He is, after all, trying to assemble a team of super friends.
Oh, wait, can I just check if we watched 8 seconds of 2 games in Legacy there.
Yeah.
It's 1-1. Fantastic. We like to bring you as much Legacy coverage as we possibly can, and this round, it's 8 seconds. All right, let's go back to Modern. It's game number 2. Maybe we'll have a bit more success over here. Richard Neal in Modern against Steve Rubin, who is 1-0 down, and he is getting going with the smallest possible Death Shadow to still be... Yeah, exactly. I didn't know you could do a voice like that, Jake. That's very good.
And plenty of graveyard action here going for Steve Rubin, which is kind of exactly where he wants to be right now. Able to cast things like Tassiger, the Golden Fang, or Gurmag, Angler. Really early Thalia on the table for Richard Neal. And here is an Inquisition of Kozilek targeting Richard Neal. It's number 7, if you're keeping track at home.
So he gets his pick of the litter here.
And here's a card that I noticed in his list. It's kind of interesting. Not a lot of the human decks run, which is Phantasmal Image, which is a card you normally would find in a Merfolk list.
Yeah, this is a really, really cool card to have in these human decks, especially now the humans that you're playing have power and redundancy. You know, a card like Champion of the Power, which is, you know, strong in multiples. Thalia's Lieutenant, even more so. Reflector Mage, you know, can really be a great interactive spell. Copying a Meddling Mage. If you get a whole bunch of Meddling Mages in play, sometimes you can just make your opponent's deck do absolutely nothing. Really great addition from Richard Neal here to this human strategy.
Happy New Year to the original Meddling Mage, Mr. Chris Bakula. We're not going to see quite as much of him in 2018, but we hope to see you very soon, Chris. I know you're a very busy man back at work in New York, and probably would have struggled to get here potentially with all the weather we've had, which again, if you missed it, is why Steve Rubin, Paul Rietzel, and Andrew Cuneo are shacked up together as a team, because it turns out that lots of people weren't able to make it out to not even particularly sunny California, but snow-free California.
I gotta say, when I arrived yesterday, it was raining, and I'm from Minnesota, where it's currently something like -14, and I was just like, wow, this is wonderful. I forgot what rain was.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that front. It was 10 degrees, and I was shoveling snow on Thursday, and now I'm here in 50-degree weather, and it feels like a tropical wonderland.
Yes. Thalia's Lieutenant was the play there for Richard Neal, putting a counter on Thalia, very flavorful.
Oh, yeah. I didn't
2
even
mana
catch
for
the
this
connection.
opt. Will you pay the 2? I guess you will.
So he opts to do so.
He opts to pay the 2 mana. Yeah, indeed.
And Thalia, at its very best against a deck like Grixis Death Shadow, where they're playing so many 1-mana cantrips, and you really get punished for playing those cards when you're playing against a card like Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. And again, cantrip is a card that replaces itself by drawing a card when you play it. This term we learned earlier today comes from Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah.
Always assuming they weren't trolling us, Jake.
It sounds legit.
It does. It actually sounds conceivable. Wait, now, this is a
I
weird
can confirm that it's a real thing. I have played Dungeons & Dragons in college.
On screen, Steve Rubin, 3 feet to our right, Pro Tour Hall of Famer, Ben Rubin. Great
We're
to see
Rubin
him
flooded.
out.
If we just had a sandwich, we would have the Holy Trinity.
Well, I've seen Erin Campbell here this weekend, but do we have Ruben Bresler?
He was at the pre-release.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The LRR loading ready run pre-release.
Yes, indeed.
I'm just thinking about pastrami now.
You're welcome. You know, this is a team event where we don't need to worry about cards overlapping because we have 3 different formats. But a deck like Humans is really interesting because it lends itself very well to playing in team unified environments because of the lands it runs, like Ancient Ziggurat there, which no other deck wants.
Absolutely.
You know, I can't stand the 3-color energy decks. That's a team event as well.
Oh, wow. This might be your best one today, Rich.
I don't think the bar's particularly high.
What do you think that Phantasmal Image is copying? That Angler? I didn't quite.
I don't want to speculate. I'm sorry.
True.
Why don't we narrow it down? Could be Gurmag Angler, could be Death Shadow, could be another Death Shadow. I mean, yeah, too many choices.
Well, it could
Phantasmal is only your creature. Sorry about that.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's not.
No, that's
No,
what
it could be
you're trying to
anything.
say to me.
No, it could be anything.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're leading me down the garden path, chat. Shame on you.
Yeah. Stop trying to trick Rich.
It's so easy. Why try?
You know what's interesting, too, in playing this 5-color Humans deck is the fact that Meddling Mage is kind of your only way to interact with what your opponent is doing because your mana is so very unrestricted when, in regards to creatures, but so incredibly restrictive when it comes to trying to cast anything like an instant or sorcery.
Absolutely. So, a Meddling Mage, the fact that you have access to Phantasmal Image when you're playing Neil's list, it means that you can have multiple Meddling Mages in play and increase your disruptive capability. The deck interacts in other small ways too. Kitesail Freebooter is a really nice upgrade to the deck. I think it's kind of what made the deck playable.
Yeah.
Just to confirm, chat, who are trying to rectify the situation here, they say 100% it's a Thalia's Lieutenant that it's copying because it's human and look, there's a counter on it and all that stuff. So
Sure, that makes sense.
Thanks, chat. You're lovely.
Steve Rubin's in a rough spot here, though. I mean, if Richard Neal is able to find basically any creature,
Mantis Rider.
Mantis
Fingers
Rider
crossed.
would be the coolest.
Feels great just to swing in with that 3/3 Vigilance. Haster.
It does feel really, really, really good. Mantis Rider is a card that I was really impressed by when I first saw it, and I'm not surprised that it's starting to see play even in a format like Modern.
And it's really interesting, too, because it didn't start out, obviously, as a card that you saw in Modern, and kind of, we have a slightly newer deck, thanks to Kitesail Freebooter, and in it goes. New life, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's much better in a Modern where people are playing Planeswalkers, too, because having an evasive haste creature when your opponent is playing Planeswalkers is really, really important.
All right, this Death Shadow getting into the red zone here.
And with those lands in play, Steve Rubin can threaten to make that pretty big.
Richard Neal just has to sit back on his humans list and pass the turn back over to Steve Rubin once again.
Can't I just sit?
Sure.
I mean, you said Richard Neal.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay. That one hurt the most.
Excellent.
That was painful.
That's perked me up no end.
Thoughtseize here from Steve Rubin.
So Steve gonna set up an attack here. It's weird. It's dangerous to attack, but I don't know how you win the game if you don't.
Right, because then you're just essentially playing the waiting game for Mantis Rider.
Yeah.
Death Shadow swinging in once again. Putting Neil in a kind of a dangerous spot. Takes the damage, passes back. See if he can find some way to break through here.
Looks like he did draw something. It's not a land.
It is kind of intimidating to play against a deck like Death Shadow. Just worrying you're going to make some kind of mistake on exactly how much the Death Shadows can grow from your opponent. Dismember here targeting the Gurmag Angler.
Which member?
Dismember.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Wow. That was a 90-degree effect right there. Well, ish.
In swings the team for Richard Neal.
And I don't think Steve has much in the way of action in his hands, so that's going to be lethal here.
And that's game set to Richard Neal. Wow.
2-0 over Steve Rubin's Death Shadow 5-color humans getting it done.
Surely it must be time for 3 more seconds of legacy coverage. Am I right?
You're right.
It is. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh, we beat it.
5. Oh, wow.
So-
Extended bonus legacy coverage for you.
One of my favorite cards ever. I already talked about me liking Blood Moon. In the same vein, I'm a big fan of Back to Basics.
Talk to me about this card.
So this is a card from, I believe it's from Urza Saga.
Yep.
And it says that non-basic lands don't untap during their controller's untap steps. And it looks like Andrew Cuneo has fetched up a mana base wherein he has all basic lands. And Tabrizi here, he has all non-basic lands. So basically all of Tabrizi's lands are just Lotus Petals that only tap for their mana. And
Wow. And it's a great pun name for a card there, Rich.
I don't know what you mean.
Sure. I love the art on it as well.
It is gorgeous, yeah. Andrew Robinson, the original artist on Back to Basics.
a nice Baron quote on there also.
A
As your
ruler
friend.
wears a crown while the rest of us wear hats, but which would you rather have when it's raining? Fair point.
Yeah, I like that sentiment.
Can't argue there. Speaking of back to basics, a lot of chat want to slap Andrew Cuneo on the hand for these basics. Come on, this is legacy. Up your game, Cuneo. Snapcaster Mage here from Cuneo.
That brings him an unbelievable amount of joy, by the way.
Really?
The frustration that he
Trolling
might be
people with
causing.
these lands?
Yes, I'm sure.
So, question for chat. If a ruler wears a crown while the rest of us wear hats, what do the rest of us wear when a ruler wears a hat? Answers in chat, please. If a ruler wears a crown while the rest of us wear hats, what do the rest of us wear while a ruler wears a hat?
So
Snapcaster Mage getting it done here for Cuneo.
interesting note here about Tabrizi casting that Ponder. He essentially stone rained himself in order to cast that Ponder.
Yes, he did. And there he is. Jace himself hitting the battlefield for Cuneo.
That's like the best card.
I mean, it basically is, right? Just allows him to do pretty much anything that he wants to do.
And what he's going to do with that Jace is he's going to control Tabrizi's draw step and ensure that he doesn't draw any more mana sources. And in doing so, he's just locking Tabrizi out of this game.
Search for Azcanta for Cuneo. Ooh, there we go. A mana source for Tabrizi, potentially. But Cuneo looks to have the game pretty well on lock here. Able to sculpt his own draws with Search.
I'm not sure if he even wants the Search for Azcanta to flip here.
Yeah. Snapcaster's getting in for 4 a turn. Sometimes in Legacy, all you need are your Snapcasters. Super friends! Super friends! They're super friends.
Wow.
And do you know who the friends are? The friends are Gideon, Jace, and Andrew. They're just hanging out.
I don't know. I don't think Andrew is likely to be a planeswalker anytime soon. Not Andrew Cuneo specifically, but just I don't anticipate a future set with planeswalker
Andrew.
I think, when you're playing Magic, aren't you a planeswalker, though? Isn't that kind of the...
Yeah.
Previous to their planeswalkers being a card type, I always would have described myself playing in Magic as a planeswalker.
And there is the handshake. Andrew Cuneo taking down Sean Tabrizi 2-1.
And so that means that we're all tied up because Richard Neal beats Steve Rubin. Cuneo defeats Sean Tabrizi. The 2-1 or 2-0 doesn't matter at all. It's just about winning the match, which means we are left with Standard. And Stephen Peters is determined to play a hybrid game of both Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. Look at that. That didn't take long to change, did it? Yes. So there we are. Thopter comes into play. 1-1 fly. You've got a Bristling Hydra, but Stephen Peters has no mana right now. Paul Rietzel is underway. He's got a Verdurous Gearhulk with 1 counter on, Glint Sleeve Siphoner with 3. And okay, we're starting to get interesting. And is that a sideboard option there, Jake, for
Lifecrafter's
for
Bestiary?
Yeah, now the Bestiary, what that card is going to do for Paul is it's going to give him a long-term advantage over the course of the game by allowing him to draw extra cards when he's playing creatures. The problem for Paul in this current situation that he finds himself in is that he doesn't really have flyers in his deck, and his ways to deal with flyers, they're spot removal spells, which don't match up well against these tokens. So Paul really needs to be applying pressure back on Peters in order to win this game, because he's not going to be, winning a long game here where he's being pecked away in the air by 1/1 Thopters.
And we talked a little bit about how Paul Rietzel has metagame specifically for this seat in this tournament by bringing in cards like Ripjaw Raptor. And there you see the Lifecrafter's Bestiary out of the sideboard. He does have access to 2 copies of it. Another way, like if you expected a lot of long, grindy games, well, this will get me out of it by drawing more cards. Also has a 1 of Greenbelt Rampager in the main.
Nice question in chat. Lawrence Dina asks, do we ever show the players' faces? Lawrence, just a logistics thing. We have, because we have 6 overhead cameras to show 6 matches, 3 on the front table, 3 on the back. Rather than 2 player cams for our main match, if you like, which is what we would do at a normal individual Grand Prix, at teams, we have 2 full tables of overheads and then 1 wide view of the feature match area, and then 17 cameras for Jake, Maria, and myself, because obviously that's what really matters.
Interesting, 2 Cartouche of Ambitions in Rietzel's sideboard as well.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
So do I. We're going to see a Deadlands sack there from Rietzel. Swing in here with the Gearhulk and the Siphoner.
Okay, so I believe he sacrificed those Deadlands to the Hashep Oasis.
Targeting that Gearhulk. Giving it +3/+3. Rietzel at 9. How do you like his position here versus Stephen Peters, who's got those 2 Thopters in play? And you mentioned Rietzel's deck kind of soft to flyers. That Gearhulk, though.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty big.
And this is the match right here. If Rietzel can close this out, this will be game, set, and match to the pro team of Rietzel, Rubin, and Cuneo.
I do see a confiscation coup in hand for Stephen Peters. Harnessed Lightning as well.
Both energy cards, but currently with no energy stored up.
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe it's an Abrade.
Yeah, the Abrade that he has there, that can deal with Verdurous Gearhulk.
Oh, yeah. Down it goes. And Peters will pass turn back to Rietzel, who's going to use some energy off the Glint Sleeve Siphoner to draw. Draw was in a tune with Ether. Attune the play is going to net some more energy here. Go searching through his deck. Lifecrafter's Bestiary, just in case you're not familiar, at the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay green. If you do, draw a card.
So, board cleaned up. It's a matter of what's in their hands and what's on the top of their libraries. Stephen Peters has a lot of powerful interactive cards in his hand, but I think Paul has the ultimate trump card in hand in Vraska, Relic Seeker.
Ooh, excellent.
That was the card I was most excited about from Ixalan.
Long Tusk Cub to play here. Paul Ritzel will pay green to draw off the bestiary. But we see an Essence Scatter from Peters, going to deal with that Long Tusk Cub. Another Attune here from Ritzel.
Yeah, those Attune and Long Tusk Cub, quite clearly not the same at this kind of stage of the game. I think you're quite happy to let an Attune resolve, and yeah, Long Tusk Cub gone from the battlefield. Never got there.
Yeah, it's something that's so nice about Long Tusk Cub is it's, just about the best thing you can do on the second turn. And then in addition to being that, it is also a great top deck in the late game a lot of the time when you have a huge energy store at the ready.
So Ritzel's last card is Vraska?
I believe so.
Oh, confiscation coup here on the bestiary.
I would like to take that from you. Sure.
Not exactly the usual target for that card.
Here, Paul can just minus his Vraska, make a treasure, and take it off the table if he wants to.
Nice. Here she comes. Vraska seeking a relic, may just very well find one.
Yeah, so just making a rogue here. Or pirate.
Pirate.
Yes.
2/2 with menace. I mean, the pirate's probably very roguish.
Yes. That's an adjective I would use to describe the pirate. Menacing.
Yes, menacing. Very good. Rich, someone's trying to take your job over here.
Yeah, look at me.
Rogue Refiner here for Peters. Another Essence Scatter in hand as well. Ether Hub will net him another energy, but nothing but that in the land in hand. Ooh, nice draw. Gear Hulk here for Ritzel.
So an interesting question. He could go for the Gear Hulk, or he could just use the Oasis with his Menace creature. So he really needs to decide what Peters could have in hand. And if he correctly assesses the situation and decides that Essence Scatter is the card that he needs to play around, then he's going to be sacrificing the Oasis. But if he assumes that it's more likely that Peters has a spot removal spell in hand, then he would rather be playing the Gear Hulk this turn. So this is really a judgment call on Paul's part. He's got to decide what's more likely to be happening and what his game plan is against those likelihoods.
Steven Peters just at 3 life to Paul Ritzel's 7. Interesting to see which line Paul chooses here. And indeed, I think he's going through some of the same things that you were just thinking about, Jake, as he takes a look at Peters' graveyard.
So, really interesting stuff here. And it may seem funny, like, oh, well, he has these 2 ways to win the game in his hand. Why doesn't he just try one? And he tried the wrong one.
Spun the wheel there. Essence Scatter on the Virtuous Gear Hulk. Vraska here deciding what to do. It's going to take down the Rogue Refiner. 5 loyalty. In swings the 2/2. Another bestiary in play for Ritzel.
It's turbo time. We've got things a little bit quicker because that means that in our ear we discover that, yes, the pairings are about to go up for round number 3, which means MTG launch is almost at a conclusion. But what will that conclusion be?
Harness Lightning taking down the Pirate token from Vraska from Steven Peters. Long Tusk Cub here for Ritzel. Super Speed Magic. Rishka Pima Renegade.
Yep. Another draw. More draws.
It's just the bestiary, right? I mean, it's been there since we got here for this game, and it's just sat there in play, and green mana here, green mana there.
It actually went over to Peter's side of the table, and that's a new bestiary for Paul Ritzel.
Yeah,
right.
It was a relic that Rietzel sought, though. And,
Yeah.
Indeed.
And it looks like it's going to get the job done. There's the handshake, and Paul Rietzel defeats Stephen Peters by 2-0. So that will do it there. And welcome back to the booth, Rich, Maria, and JVL, as we're here to wrap up our show, first show of the weekend, MTG launch, which means that we're about to have a well-deserved break. And here in the booth will be Marshall Sutcliffe and Eduardo Sage-Gallet. They're going to be your hosts for the opening of the Pro Show. You'll see the best players in action. So I wouldn't surprise me if we get back to Peach Garden Oath, though we saw them in round 1, Jake.
We did, and they won in decisive fashion.
Yeah, maybe they're 1-1 now. Who knows? We'll see how things go. 8 rounds today, remember, then 6 rounds tomorrow. Then we cut to the top 4. So Maria and JVL will be back with you for rounds 4 and 6 in the Pro Show. Marshall and Eduardo will be here with rounds 3 and 5. And I'm going to go and lie down, and I might pop back tomorrow at some point if I can think of any more jokes. So I hope you're having a good time here. MTG launches in the books for Grand Prix Santa Clara. We are up and running, and pairings are just about to go up. Don't go anywhere. Little break, and then it'll be Marshall and Eduardo with the Pro Show.